Hi, everybody. It's Kimberly. I'm an eternal life student, which simply means human. At the end of the day, that really is the only title that we need. I think people are like walking books. We each have our own stories to share, and by sharing them, we learn from each other and can grow stronger. And today, I have a guest who's going to share some of his story. And it's not just the first time he's been with us, this will be the third time. So I would like to welcome Artem Solomakin. Hi, Artem. How are you doing?
Hi, Kim. It's so good to see you. It's been too long.
I know, my God, it's been how long now that we've known each other about?
I think maybe like four or a little extra. It's been a
Yes,
while.
right? That's amazing, right? And it all started with just saying, "Hey, let's do a podcast. Let's learn about each other and share some of the stories and some of our experiences." So, it's been amazing, and thank you very much. I appreciate you being in this journey with me.
The feeling is really mutual. I've enjoyed watching you, supporting you on LinkedIn and following
Yes.
your journey as well. So, although I haven't seen you in person for a while, it's been
Yes.
really good to be a part of yours. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. So, all right. So, today's topic is a very interesting one, as usual. So, we are going to say, how do trees communicate, and so do we? So, let's talk a little bit about it. I know we were going to talk about how conversations and we talk about connection, culture, invisible signals that kind of shape our lives from trees to technology. And that's a lot to cover, right? In a little bit of time, but I think we can do it. I'm up
Oh
to the
yeah.
challenge. Are you up for the challenge? Yeah. So, if you could start off by kind of explaining what is morphic resonance.
Okay. So I'll give you a rundown of my understanding. It's not scientific by any means,
Okay.
because um morphic resonance is this interesting topic. It was studied by Carl Jung
Hmm.
from a psychology standpoint.
Okay.
It's this collective unconsciousness that we share. So there's this duality where there's individualism, who am I? And there's
Okay.
also that shared substrate of what happens to us when we die, for example, or how come we can feel when something's off with a friend if we really care so much.
Yes.
Like, there's all these instances where we find ourselves communicating between each other in a different plane. And um, that is very similar to how I view morphic resonance when it comes to people. It's
Okay.
a really interesting thing.
Definitely. So, what would you say is kind of the difference between collective memory versus individuals?
Well, as an individual, how I view individualism is basically uh, our takes on reality itself. So it's almost like a detective show when the detective asks someone at the crime scene, "What did you see?" And then so he takes that perspective and then he takes someone else's from the crime scene to kind of get a better understanding of what actually happened. So
Okay.
it's all these different flavors on what actually happened, and the truth is always somewhere in the middle. So that's kind of like collective, where even though we're interpreting different things in reality, they might be part of the same whole. um
Okay.
so
No, that's great. So then, would you say that, um, okay, so you have like a cumulative effect, excuse the way I'm pronouncing it. Kind of like a
of
herd
course,
mentality, right? How would you describe what a herd mentality is?
mm, there's definitely a potential from
Hmm.
the collective perspective to have a mentality where everyone thinks in the
Hmm.
um same bandwidth of what is happening. It's kind of like um like the danger whenever I think of like herd mentality or the collective thinking of one thing, I
Okay.
always think of like what's the worst case scenario. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So like when it comes to herd mentality, like the best example are like shortages that happen before a
Hmm.
storm. Like there's a hurricane coming and
Okay.
like a week before there's
Hmm.
already no gas. And the
Yes.
hurricane never even hit, but the
Yes.
shortages exist cuz everyone collectively panics.
True. Yeah. They run to
So,
the store, they're grabbing bread, eggs, milk, all of that, the toilet paper, everything like that before
exactly.
something happened. True.
And that's definitely reinforced by like the news and the fear of missing out, the human
Yes.
aspect of I'm part of the collective and I can't miss it out. So those are the potential pitfalls of thinking on the same bandwidth. So,
Okay. So,
um mm,
what about do you think that that affects like algorithms can affect that type of mentality as well?
so I think algorithms the the important thing to remember is that as a nation, I think like in the US and the Western culture, we're very individualized.
Mm-hmm.
So in our sense of the word, the algorithms that feed our everyday lives, so from social media to even ChatGPT, kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
agent that's geared towards, well, I'm collecting a lot of the way that you ask your questions, and I'm going to put you down, potentially down your own rabbit holes of what you enjoy. So,
Right.
um, when combining that with thinking about like morphic resonance, like leading back to morphic resonance,
Mm-hmm.
feel like morphic resonance is experienced um when people they share their ideas and then they kind of grow through each other's perspective, where there's like a kind of back and forth where it's
Mm-hmm.
both people gain a new perspective or an understanding.
Okay.
And the danger with recursive algorithms and technology like that is they have the potential to put people in their own rabbit holes of thinking. So it may be actually harder to connect through that secondary field that might potentially exist.
So it's almost like it's empathy, but it keeps circling around, so they don't get
Hmm.
to grow from it, kind of.
Do you mean like the technology circulating the empathy, or what did you mean by that?
Like where you say that if they're seeing the same thing and it keeps
Hmm.
circling around and around and it's based off of their feeling, right?
Hmm.
It's almost like their own empathy is they're attached to that feeling that they like,
Hmm.
right? So they're going to look for
Hmm.
more of it.
That's absolutely the case. And the people designing these social media platforms, and they know that too.
Yes.
So if they know that it's driven by feeling,
Mm-hmm.
then post like addicted to drama, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise, what are you going to talk about, really?
Well, it's true. Think about the news or anything that's out
Hmm.
there. What's the first thing people are doing? They want the excitement. They want the drama. They don't
Hmm.
want the happy stuff sometimes, but the drama's more fun. True?
The drama is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? As long as it doesn't involve yourself. Right?
Yeah,
Then
that's
it's not fun.
crucial. Uh-huh. Someone to blame, that's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm gonna take a step back and I'm gonna ask
Hmm.
you, just because I don't want to assume that everybody knows what we are talking about. Could you explain
Hmm.
what an algorithm is?
Can I explain? Okay. So, um, the algorithm was probably invented somewhere in the Middle East a
Okay,
very long time ago, and it was just basically a sequence of steps to guide a human being through a problem. So it's
okay,
the logic around getting to an answer that's like a shortcut or something that's repeatable.
okay. So,
Hmm.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, modern day algorithms. So that's something that computers run on. So algorithms are basically programmed shortcuts to um, optimize for something.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Okay, so some
Um,
people, like for example, some might say, if they are talking about something, all of a sudden it appears on their Facebook or Instagram or whatever,
mhm.
and they say that, that could be part of an algorithm where if you look at a specific clothing or you like cats or something like that, then all of a sudden you might see more of that image. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I
Right?
think a lot of people, even a lot of people are starting to catch on to that
Yeah.
too. It used to be a thing where I think where they just came out with it, where they're scrolling on Facebook like, oh my God, look. And then a lot of people started catching on to
Yeah,
exactly that happening. And
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you could mention something random that was something like sometimes I do it as
yeah,
a joke that makes no sense, and all of a sudden it would show up. So, you could be
yeah,
like that just shows you that it's technology, right? That's what they're doing. So,
definitely.
okay, so with that
And
said, let's talk about trees. The
let's do it.
conversation is about, how do trees communicate, right? So, uh,
hmm
enlighten me and let me know about this topic.
Well, there's when I first read about morphic resonance, when it came to trees and stuff, it blew my mind really.
Okay.
It's in fact, there's probably more questions now than there are answers.
Hmm.
Um, we think that we communicate through the airwaves and that we're able to change based on what we learn as human beings, and that most other things in nature, well, a bird can communicate directly to another bird, but it can't really pick up a cell phone and you know,
Yes, exactly.
um,
Not yet.
but there's also a lot of examples in nature where, like, for example, how do the birds determine in one flock, and there's hundreds of birds, like
Yes.
the first bird is the one flying at the top of the rectangle, like how did all the birds
True.
develop this magical hierarchy?
Yeah.
And same thing with trees, like sometimes they'll plant two seeds
Hmm.
and one tree will grow short and another one will grow tall.
True.
They
That's true.
decided to work together, and one tree's getting all the sunshine going outwards, and one's going straight up. And
Wow.
so that is a really interesting way by which, not only trees in that way, but there's also a way where they adapt collectively at the same time to predators, or
Okay.
like a whole forest, for example. Um, and the question is how and why, and do they think about it, right? Does the
Okay.
collective conscious require thought?
Okay.
Um, and then there's also fungi and how they spread. There's
Yes.
no each individual part of the fungi. It's like they communicate between all of them somehow,
Yes.
and it all leads back to this invisible field of like, what is a brain, and do we share one?
No, true. A lot of people like to think of nature as everything is connected, right?
hmm
And when you really think about the roots under the ground and how they're all connecting to the other trees, right? You're not
hmm
sure, like, is there some sort of signal going through? Is there some sort of communication in whatever language you want to call it happening?
hmm
Right? And I recently I saw somewhere, don't quote me 100%, but I saw this where they said that trees could they can identify when lightning is going to happen or something like that. Um
Interesting.
yeah. So it's the
hmm
way that they like, I guess, position their branches or their leaves. So when
hmm
something like that happened, it was noticeable. Um
hmm
and so there's a lot more to it. And there's another tree that I was made aware of. They called them walking trees, which I thought was fascinating. Um,
Mm.
So what would happen is it was the same idea of the roots, right? So what would happen is the roots would move underground so that the tree then would slowly start to move with it. So it
Oh,
looks
no
as
way.
though it's a walking tree because it needed to get out of the way to get to where there was more water or whatever reason. So how does a tree know to move itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Plant life, trees, it's proven if you sing to them, if you talk to them, they react, right?
It's
So,
incredible. That,
yes,
yeah, that's a big part of it too.
yes. So it's living, it's breathing, it's giving. When I say living and breathing, it has its own way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So the signals that you say. Of course, right? They're invisible, but yet just because it's invisible to us doesn't mean that it can't be seen a different way. So I really think, science is going to figure out a way to capture that information and share
Mm-hmm.
it with us further down, further down the line, and it will be very fascinating to see.
It's incredible. And in trying to understand how trees talk to each other, what science sometimes does is they'll like isolate the tree and
Yes.
see if it communicate like in this little bubble.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
um, and a lot of what we know in biology too comes from we change the environment and we're like, well, why isn't the environment working? Well, maybe we took out this particular tree which was
Yes.
doing something and we never envisioned that, wow, it actually had like a bigger part to play than we had
Yeah.
previously thought. So,
No, very true. And when you start to look at
mhm,
the overall picture of even like when you cut down a tree, that tree is almost a community, right? If you think
mhm,
like an ocean wreath, right? In the ocean, the
mhm,
wreath has all the animals in it. It has its own system, community. It's necessary for the ocean for
mhm,
everything. A tree is similar, right? The animals live in it, the fungi live in it, the insects live in it. Um,
absolutely.
so each tree has its history, it has its community, it has
Mhm,
different things available that I don't think everybody realizes. Um, there used to be a study back
mhm.
in the time where there was people who worship trees. Um, I wish I remembered the name of them. I'll think about it. It will come back to me later. But like they worship trees. People say hug a tree
You're
or
not talking about the hippies, are you?
no, no, hippies are part of it, but this is a different group.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah. So, but it's known and it's from hundreds of years ago, and even in movies like Lord of the Rings, they have the ants, the trees that are known to be walking around, and they hold the history of civilization of all the years.
Mhm,
So a tree is much more than just a lovely thing in nature to look at, right? Like you said, there's a whole communication system going on, and it's important to take a step back and look at it in depth, right? Most things in life, when you just take a step back, you'll realize it's not just an object. There's so much more to it and connected with it,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Uh, so, um,
that's beautiful.
thank you. I love trees. But you are right when you do say that sometimes we don't know what we do, right? You take a
Mhm,
certain tree out of a specific area, and that
mhm,
tree may be the one thing that was keeping insects um, alive and happy. And
mhm.
once you get rid of that tree, now they have to relocate, right? And now we have all these insects in different areas because they lost their tree, right?
They lost their tree, yeah.
Yeah. So, and sometimes some of the trees end up growing where they're not supposed to, and
Mhm,
you now run out of water because all those roots that weren't there before are drinking up the water, So it is a combination of learning about your environment, what's around you, and how it affects everything.
It's
Um,
definitely a point to how interconnected everything is as well. Now,
yes,
that one tree supported the environment, and then
yes,
you realize, wow, that tree did a lot. So
yes.
just goes to show you.
There was a picture that I had seen, and it had this huge tree that had been there for like hundreds of years, right? It was a long, long life. And someone had said that that tree isn't a tree. It's part of the
Mm,
family, and it's part of the history and the legacy, because what they showed was there was one person who sat underneath it, and
hmm,
they not only were with a tree, they were in the shade. And now that shade became a
interesting.
place where others could sit. And now the community was underneath that tree. So you start
Mm-hmm.
from a little seed, right? And you grow into something that can last for a very long time that affects everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of what has shown in history, it references, it starts from the seed, whether it's an idea, whether it's a tree, whether it's a life or anything like that. It begins first from that one little thing, and then the roots expand, right?
Yeah. Very symbolic, very
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you. So, let's talk a little more. We were going to talk about kind of like how algorithms affect demographics.
Mm. I really like how we segue between trees and algorithms because
Yeah.
it connects some dots too. In a way, to grow, I think, a very big and sturdy tree for the environment, it needs to have an equal amount of roots at the
Yes.
bottom. And those roots are what give the strength, like the tree strength, but also water, the nitrogen, bacteria, and everything like
Hmm.
that. And so it's a big way. Actually, the mycelium networks of fungi,
Hmm.
some science shows that they actually create these networks between other trees. So
Okay.
through the mycelium, the trees can communicate through that way as well. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
when it comes to these algorithms and predictive analytics on an individual basis, what we're doing is in a way we're making the roots of like what makes human beings, and we're
Mhm.
exchanging that network um, with algorithms.
Okay.
Um, well, piggyback piggyback with the original question. What was the question again? Because I feel
It's
like I was
just,
heading there.
no, it's okay. That like algorithm, how do algorithms affect demographics?
Demographics. Okay. So what we're seeing now demographically is that the people who don't embrace the technology are falling behind
Okay.
demographically. And the people that do use this technology, a big proportion, especially the ones that are younger, are
Hmm.
giving this technology agency. Agency is like personifying it or letting it say, okay, well, my decisions are based on what you said and not what someone who cares about me said.
Right.
Um, so it's like a tool with a double-edged sword, but the ones that are the youngest end up falling behind in the sense of like to be able to write and express yourself, you need to learn the alphabet.
Yes.
Something that algorithms do is that they reduce the base, like the
Hmm.
trees and the roots. So with
Hmm.
no roots, what ends up happening is that you don't develop a sense of self before you're able to start using this to, for example, recycle other people's ideas. I could take anybody's thought and I
Right.
can use ChatGPT. So um, where are the roots holding down society of like what does it mean, what do I stand for, and things like that. So I think the younger generation risks that fundamental developing their roots because of it.
True. I mean, not only that, I think being able to ask questions, they lose that
Hmm.
ability almost. right? Because if they haven't really
Hmm.
experienced it, they just take it verbatim of what's being told, then
Hmm.
they're not going to ask the question. They're just going to accept it.
They're gonna accept it, and like for example, with Chat GPT, like I can ask follow-up questions, or it'll even give me like guiding questions to ask, and that's where the danger is the rabbit hole, where it's like the predictive analytics of what you want to hear, for example, versus what's actually out there. Because I can ask, why is the sun yellow? It can lead me down a rabbit hole of maybe because that's what the color of the that's what you perceive, or it's an electron, or it could be because it's a giant ball in the sun. You can ask
Right.
these questions and go into like these different waves of thinking.
Yeah.
And when it's exclusively done with AI, for example, when I'm trying to fix something, I can go
Mhm.
down rabbit holes of, man, I exhausted everything. But if someone asked me, like a human being, he'd say, well, did you check this? But I was
Right.
down a rabbit hole of exploring something completely different.
True. Yes.
Um,
So what do you think that because of these, what are some of the safeguards that people might try?
um, so as a user who's using a safeguard, or
Yeah. So you said the younger generation probably will, it's a little more
hmm,
difficult for them. So
right?
other than a parent, saying, okay, only so much time on there, right? And, limit the
Yeah,
time, but like practice, right? Maybe whatever you're doing there, I also practice talking it out with an actual person. Could be something.
that's definitely very important. In talking to someone, you
Hmm.
formulate how you think about it.
Right.
Um, Much easier to absorb something and say, "Wow, that was cool," as opposed
Yeah.
to, "Well, if I can't show someone how this works, then do you really understand it?" So that's a very important thing.
Exactly. Yes.
Um, Definitely what this technology does is that, okay, I learned something interesting from a book and I'm going to copy and paste it and it's going to
Mhm.
write the post.
Yeah.
So, um, definitely have a conversation with what is being read.
Hmm.
That's very helpful without having additional um like an internal monologue with a book. For like I read a
Yes.
book that was like how to read a book about how to read a book.
Okay.
And it just said have an internal conversation. So that conversation was, what did I read and what questions would I have for the author?
Hmm.
And that helps internalize the information coming in as opposed to something else constantly filling it in, something
Yes.
like chat.
So I think with that, I mean, it's almost there's a new way people are going to have to be taught of how to think, almost, right? Because if it's out there and
Mhm.
that's what it's doing, unless you're given those tools, you're not going to know how to do it. You're just going to go down the rabbit hole.
Well, yeah, and then there's also the existential risk of the technology going down. Can you operate now that you've
Yes,
conditioned yourself to constantly use the tech? Um,
true.
and every technology that comes out is a double-edged sword, including something like these algorithms or Chat GPT.
Hmm.
Like social media was supposed to connect people, and now what we see is, AIs for parents because you don't know how to talk to your parents anymore.
Right.
Kind of like that. Now
Yes.
they're trying to fix their problem by plugging in
Adding
more
the other stuff.
problems.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, it's true.
And it's it's engineered that way for a reason.
Hmm.
It I get used to Chat GPT. I get used to thinking with it. So now I can't not pay the subscription. So it almost
Right.
comes with the territory of um how you use it is everything, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, so with that said, we were gonna try to find a way to see morphic resonance in how it affects us positively.
Positively.
Yeah.
Well, uh apart from being really excited to be here and have
Yeah.
this conversation with you, it's really is really nice to connect with people
Yes.
and say hello getting coffee,
Hmm.
or it's the little things.
Yeah.
um we affect each other on a level that is very hard to quantify with modern day numbers and through algorithms included.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on social media, we project how much people care by how many likes we get.
Right.
There's all these hidden metrics, and morphic resonance hits down to the bottom of I feel a certain way after having that conversation or saying hello, but I didn't logic it out yet. It was just nice, or
Yeah.
maybe not nice, something deeper than um, logic. And we all share that. And so there is, it's like computational kindness. That's morphic resonance for
I like
you.
it. That's good.
Yeah.
I like it. Good. Yeah, no, and we were talking about, like, remember I was saying how empathy, right? You
Mhm.
you yourself may get stuck in that loop, right? And it's because you yourself are like in the way that it feels, and so you get stuck in that loop
Mhm.
versus actual people, right? That's the difference. You're going to be able to say, okay, you know what? I don't know what they're going to talk about. And
Mhm.
now you actually are having a conversation. You're learning from each other, right?
Mhm.
And then
Absolutely.
you can get kindness from it. So it's a win-win.
Absolutely. And what that made me think of was, especially in the age of recursions and algorithms and going in our rabbit holes, we all have things that we stand for and we enjoy.
Yes.
But that's the part with empathy. When you have a conversation or when you engage,
Mm-hmm.
it's very helpful to get out of potentially negative
Yes.
recursion loops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could be thinking the world's ending. I could be thinking that sports is the best, but
Right.
it's always nice to listen to someone else's perspective and see what they're doing about it. So,
Yes. Great. So I wanted to thank you very much again for joining us and having such an amazing conversation. It's always a pleasure learning from you, and I'm very excited to see what your next subject will be. Hopefully, it won't take a couple years, right?
thank you so much for having me. It was really good to see you.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Yes.